helping you find your new way forward to the best years of your life. This is a New Way Forward podcast with your host, Paul Long.
I am going to give you some advice that could save your life. I'm not talking from a health problem or something. I'm talking about saving your life. And that is, do not even think about traditional retirement. Don't even think about it until you really think through what's that going to be like? What is the new reality of longevity? And what's going on in the rest of the world who in this day and age, right now, are pursuing traditional retirement? And why is it that so many of them, after a year or so, are miserable? Yeah, that's the current trend right now. And here's how it plays out. What has become all too common is that, first of all, people don't really think about it, which is stunning. You live your entire life contemplating, planning, strategizing, striving for, working things out. Oh, and then I'll retire. Oh, I can't wait to retire. Real quick story. I'm here at the gazebo in my neighborhood, and during the summer, sometimes on Thursdays, everybody just gets together informally, and I'm talking to two guys. They're, I'm going to say, mid-40s, good careers, good jobs, and they like them, but they see the day ending of it, and kids, and they say, "Oh, hey, Paul, I bet you can't wait to retire." And I'm like, I'll never retire. Absolutely not. No way I'll ever retire. They were incredulous. They couldn't believe their ears. What are you talking about? I can't wait to. I think about it all the time. I think how great it'll be to just be able to do whatever I want to do and not have to, do all this other stuff. And I say, let me ask you something. Is it retirement that you want, or is it getting away from what you have now? Are you retiring from something rather to something? And what is that to? And they're like, oh, wow, yeah, I never thought of it that way. Well, a lot of people haven't thought it that way, and here's how it's playing out. This is almost all too common now, is that people don't really think it through, except for the financial part, which I'll get to. But they don't think, what is my life going to be like? What am I going to do? And so for a year, maybe two, it's nirvana. It's great. I can sleep in. I can do anything I want. I can do my bucket list. I can start a hobby. I can do all, which is all fine. But then after a year or two, they're like, what's wrong? Here's what some people say. How can I fail at retirement? I'm miserable. And you know what's going on? Alcoholism, drug abuse, divorce, big time divorce, depression, even suicide are occurring. And why is it? It's because everything you've been in your life and the things that are so critical for us as human beings is largely gone. In a recent survey, when people were reflecting on their retirement, they were a few years into it, they feel a loss of relevance, a loss of purpose, a loss of meaning, a loss of fulfillment, a loss of relationships, and the biggest one of all, a loss of self-identity. Oh my gosh, that's huge. And yes, some of that self-identity is because sometimes our identities are closely tied to what we're doing professionally. That survey was done by the Retirement Coaches Association, and a friend and colleague and mastermind partner of mine, Robert Laura. And he started out as a financial advisor, and he was advising a lot of people going into and in retirement. And what he discovered was that it's not just about the money, yet that's what everybody focuses on. How's your retirement planning going? Well, my 401k, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but what about your life? What about the life that you're going to be living? Especially considering the fact that in this day and age, if you take moderately good care of yourself, you could retire at 62 and have 30 years of not just increased lifespan, but increased health span, active, independent, mobile. What have you planned for that? Oh, well, I'm getting my golf game better. And that's why he pivoted his direction, because he's like, these people are suffering and declining despite their financial situation because they didn't really think through what was their life going to be like, what was going to give their life meaning and relevance, where was the contrast in life where you can enjoy that trip because you've been working. You start taking trips all the time, all of a sudden it doesn't mean anything to you, right? So Robert really encapsulated it beautifully. This is what so typically happens, is that it's like people who break out of jail. And there's some number, it's like 90% of them are caught the first day, within 24 hours of breaking out of jail. Why? Because all they thought about was getting out. And they didn't really think through what they were going to do once they got out, and on and on and on. As I said, this is a global trend. And many, many years ago, I started researching the heck out of what am I going to do with this next phase of life? Because I kind of had the same assumptions and notions of everybody. You know, the stunning fact that you strategize your life and, I'll just retire. It's like, no, wait a minute. I really need to think this through. And thank goodness that I did it. And I started listening and watching people and reading and talking to experts and talking to other people who had retired to really figure out what I do. And by the way, one of those clips comes from somebody that knows about success, knows about pursuing dreams, knows about being relevant and involved. And that's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I mean, the worst thing I think you can do is retire. Retiring means that you maybe have hated something that you did your whole life, and now you retire and finally you get rid of this pain or this horrible kind of like being an assembly line in some car factory or something like that. I don't know what it may be, but people just sometimes look forward to retiring. I mean, I cannot imagine, why would I want to retire from organizing the Arnold Classic? I am having a ball here. I love coming here every year, you know what I'm saying? I cannot imagine retiring from going to Gold's Gym. How can I retire from playing chess with Franco? How can I retire, going around and promoting a healthy environment, or the fitness crusade and stuff like that, or going to the, Schwarzenegger Institute? So I cannot imagine that there is such a thing as retirement. I mean, I think that it will be over when it's over.
Define retire. Is that when you give up?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some people just look forward to that, and like I said, it depends. You have to also understand one thing: 74% of the American people, that is a poll that was done, do not enjoy their work. So this is why it is very tough. It's easy for us to say, why would I retire? Because I love everything I do. But there's a lot of people that don't like their work, and they're just doing it because they need to make a living, they have a family to feed, and so they take the next best job, but they don't really like the job, and they don't know then how to switch over to another job and stuff. So it's very tough. That's why I always tell kids in my success seminars, have a clear vision where you want to go. What is it that you're really passionate about? And then go after that, no matter what it takes. Go after that, as crazy as it may sound, because you got to do something that you really enjoy doing.
Be true to yourself.
That's right, yes.
What Schwarzenegger said and others had said really triggered this insight for me. This time of life is my opportunity. It's your opportunity. It's our opportunity to design the life that we want, that fulfills the needs, the wants, the hopes, the desires, the fulfillment, the purpose, the relevance, all of that stuff, whatever it is for you. This is our opportunity to do it. The world, the economies, business, technology enables it. The way that we've evolved, like since the 60s, which was really the beginning of wanting to be relevant, wanting to make a difference, not automatically doing what society and marketers and bosses and parents told us to do. This ain't your granddaddy's retirement years. And what better time to do it when we know so much more about ourselves and about life and about the world? That this is actually a time to design it. Well, this blew my mind. And I really started doing my homework, and I really started looking at everything from a different angle than just the assumption and presumption that, you're born, you learn, you're an adult, you pursue a career, maybe a family, then you retire, decline, and die. Because the other thing too is that when you have a life like that, it is actually proven through research that makes you healthier. That having purpose and happiness and community and relevance actually has a physiological impact on your body. Plus, for me, it's a motivation to be healthy. It's the reason why I put in the great nutrition, the great exercise, and well, I won't say great, it's not as good as it should be, but it's a hell of a lot better than it used to be in order to do this. And so I really, really, really got to thinking about what I really wanted. Not just what I did, not just what I'm good at and not good at, what I like and what I don't like. That's part of it. But I really thought I was going to design this life almost from scratch, but from a foundation of who I am and life in the world. And I also used this piece of motivation because there is such a thing as constructive fear. So in my research, I was reading about the regrets that people had on their deathbeds. And the number one, consistently, across all of these surveys, was I didn't live the life that was right for me. I never went for it. I never designed it and pursued it. I don't want to be in my final days. I'm not going to be in my final days having that kind of regret. And that's one of those things that, without even fully realizing it, seep into people in traditional retirement, that when the luster wears off, they're lost. And that's when the decline and the problems start. And some people just don't know how to dig themselves out of it and pivot. And yeah, the older you get, the harder it's going to be. I don't want to feel like I missed out. And what really sold it to me, what really took me on the top, is what I'm going to share with you now. And it's an incredible story from John C. Maxwell, who is one of the preeminent global leadership experts. He's an author, he's an orator. And, well, here's the story.
In Switzerland, there are some mountains that can be climbed by people like you and me. We got to get a little bit better condition, but I mean, it's not like the mountain climber mountains that would be way beyond our skill level. But some of these mountains that can be climbed by you and me, it takes a day to get to the top, and then you just camp up there and you come down the next day. And on many of these places in Switzerland where you can do that, about halfway up the mountain is what they call the halfway house, halfway up the mountain. So a group of people starts off with a guide in the morning, and about noon, you're kind of tired, and you've been walking now for 4 or 5 hours, and you're coming up to the halfway house, and it's just it's a wonderful sight. Because as soon as you enter in the halfway house, you can smell the food, and they're getting ready for a good lunch, and you sit down, there's a fire in the fireplace, and there's nice soft chairs, and you can just rest your body and refresh your body. And so the people go into the halfway house, and they eat and laugh and enjoy and just really, really just kind of take in that wonderful, refreshing atmosphere. About an hour and a half after being in the halfway house, the guide gets up and says, "Well, gang, it's time to put on your gear. We got to hike. We got to get on up to the top." This is a fact. About half the people decide not to go on up to the top. They're sitting around the table and they're just saying, "You know what, go on up. You're going to be coming by here tomorrow. You're going to be having lunch here again tomorrow. We're just going to hang here." And so the people that want to get to the top, they put their stuff on and they kind of leave. And the rest of the people sit behind. They eat a little bit more food, get around the piano, sing some songs, get around the fireplace, enjoy the fire, warm themselves by the fire, and play games all afternoon, kind of enjoy themselves. But about 4:30, 4:45 in the afternoon, without anybody saying a word. The people who stayed in the halfway house, they slowly go over to where the window is, the big window, and they start looking outside, and they start looking up at the top of that mountain, and as they look at the top of that mountain, they see their friends. Their friends are now getting the tents out, and they're getting ready to prepare for the night, and it becomes very quiet, very somber, because everybody in the halfway house realizes the mistake they've made. They've sold their mission for a little bit of comfort for a few hours. Next morning, down come their friends, and by noon, they come into the halfway house. And when they come in the halfway, they are laughing, they're high-fiving, they're talking about what they've seen, where they've been, experiences, the fact that it was almost impossible to get up there. In fact, they had to help each other get up there, and how they joined teams and held hands, and they're just telling all these stories and talk about the pictures they've taken, and they got the group picture up there with the flag at the top, and the people who remain behind, they don't say much. They just eat their lunch and then follow the rest of them down to the bottom of the hill where their friends are waiting for them. And those who paid the price and went to the top, who understood now is the time to reach the mission, they hug and tell stories and celebrate. And the others, they just kind of slip off and get in their car and go home, because they realize they're never going to be what they wanted to be. They're never going to see what they wanted to see. They're never going to do what they wanted to do, because they failed to realize when they're at the halfway house, now's the time to rest, and they go on.
Those people who stayed in the halfway house are just like people who just automatically assume what their retirement is going to be, and that it's going to be something like the traditional retirement, where at first it's great, seemed like a good idea at the time, be careful what you ask for, you may get it, and then they regret it. I want to be one of those people who went to the top, who had those experiences, that had the personal satisfaction of even doing it. And that is, as I said at the beginning of this video, the mega trend. More and more people are saying that this is really the best time in life for so many things that I really want to do that are important to me, whatever that be, from lifestyle to purpose to meaning. That this is the opportunity to do it, and people are doing it. And I want to tell you, even people in their 30s and 40s are realizing this. You know, COVID accelerated this thing about, what am I doing with my life? I'm following the vault life and all that other kind of stuff. I want to pivot to something else, okay? They still need to maybe earn more than you and I do. But they're like, as long as I'm going to make a pivot, I'm going to pivot to something that's more meaningful and enables this whole life for me. But when we get older, there's no better time. And by the way, the beauty is that while at least the vast majority of Americans cannot afford this extended life span that's available to us, there are ways to earn money that can fit all of that and make these years some of the most meaningful and beneficial of your life. So as I said at the beginning, don't even think about traditional retirement. I don't care if you're like 100%, that's it, fine. Do it anyway. Challenge it, red team it. Some of you are going to say, you know what, I did it, thank you, but I'm going on with that. Well, great, that's probably right for you if you can afford it. But the vast majority of people who do challenge it and really think about it and research it will say, thank you, you did. You saved my life. If you're wondering about, okay, what are some of the ways that I can do that? Here on my YouTube page and in my Substack channel, I have a link in the comment section below, are some videos and stories to help you have the methods and the ways and the wherefores that you can find that new way forward that's perfect for you.